Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures, and today we're doing another part of our Planet Zoo mod spotlights, where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people are making and use them to talk about some of the wonderful biodiversity that we share our world with. So today we're going to have a bit of a shorter one, but we do have some really cool and interesting assortments of animals to deal with here. So we're going to be starting off with most of these mods actually today are done by Great Cakes, but we're going to be starting off with some Tree-Kangaroos. I know we love some Tree-Kangaroos. So we're going to be looking here. We have got the first species of Tree-Kangaroo. It's called the Dazingo or something like that. Almost like dingo, but with an extra eye in it. But we can see here is this particular cool species. So this species' name is Dendrogalus membaso. It's also known as the Bondengezo or the Bakanga. These guys are an endangered species of long-tailed marsupial, found only in the mountain forests on the west of New Guinea, only found in Indonesia. It is one of the many species of tree kangaroo, which are native to Australia and New Guinea, that feed on leaves and other plant matter. It is a macropod, so it is related to other kangaroos and wallabies and things like that. And it carries its young in a pouch like most other marsupials. Though it is considered sacred to the local Moni people, it is still threatened by hunting and habitat loss. And in terms of, we'll go into its distribution. So this marsupial lives in subalpine forests in the Suriname Range, in the central Papua and highland Papua in western New Guinea. Is this actually the baby? We'll see if that's a baby. No, it's one of the adults. Cool. Anyway, in western New Guinea, they live just below the tree line, between 3,250 and 4,200 meters, or between 10 to 13,000 feet. And the species was filmed for the first time as an episode of the BBC documentary of the South Pacific in 2009, after 11 days searching with local tribesmen. And locally, it's actually, it was given its name Membaso, which means the forbidden animal, because the Moni people locally, they forbid hunting it because it's believed to be the spirit of their ancestors. Though locally, it's known as the Bakanga. And although, according to the United IUCN Red Lists of Threatened Species, it inhabits mostly mossy forests and scrubland and is found in rugged areas, so they're not quite as tree kangaroos as other kangaroos. But you can see what's really interesting about them as well is that they've got a distinctive pattern of fur that's black and white, and has a white belly with a black head, back, and limbs, and unlike other tree kangaroos, it doesn't spend that much time in the trees, which makes it a little bit more interesting. In terms of its taxonomy, it was formally described as Dendrogalus membaso, which was described in 1995 by Australian Museum zoologist Tim Flannery, Indonesian zoologist Borodai, and Australian anthropologist Alexandra Salanze. And it seems to be mainly terrestrial and very docile, which is part of the reason why it is endangered. So it remains common in the West because of its protection, conferred to it by the Moni people. And for many Moni, it is an ancestor which never be harmed. However, it is listed as endangered, and issues include hunting for food, habitat loss, the increasing human population, agricultural stresses, and climate change are the main threats that the species face. But I'd still think it's very much a cutie, so those are the threats it does face. So let's actually have a look at the Zoopedia and see what information we can find. Not particularly huge, as you can see there, the males are quite a bit larger. We already mentioned that. An extinct species, the Nombano, was known from the Pleistocene of the Chimpi province. Significantly larger than living species. That's quite a cool fact as well. Kangaroos must find places comfortable and well adapted for breeding, as they only give birth to one joe a year. So a lot slower breeders than your typical kangaroos that can have like 3 babies on the go. They're known to have the most relaxed and leisurely birthing seasons. Tree kangaroos are slow and clumsy on the ground. They move at approximately human walking pace and hop awkwardly, leaning their body far forward to balance their heavy tail. And there's some other enrichment there. But yeah, that's a really cool species we get to talk about. Another one done by Great Cake Mods. We're going to have a look at another species. This one will look kind of familiar to you. This is very similar to the Goodfellows, which is probably the most famous example, but we've got here the Golden-mantled tree kangaroo. So let's have a look at this guy here. Also known as Dendrogalus polycheramus. So these guys are a sadly critically endangered, fuzzy bear-like mammal found only in the mountain ranges of New Guinea, in the islands of New Guinea, split between Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. Like other tree kangaroos, lives in trees and is a macropod. Its range is actually restricted to two small mountain areas in the north, the Foja and Torlechi Mountains, which one is found in two locations is the Torlechi Mountains in northwestern Papua New Guinea, and the Foja Mountains are in Indonesia. So they have two split ranges. Fossil evidence suggests they probably would have actually moved around quite a bit, but this is where they live at the moment. There are fossil records from the Volga Peninsula in West Papua and other places as well, so they are known from a few places. They also are known from about 680 to 1,700 meters, between 2 to 5,000 feet. So they do like a little bit high elevation. So this marsupial has, you can see, a chestnut brown short coat with a pale belly and yellowish neck, cheeks and feet. And there's a double gold stripe going down its back where it kind of gets its name. You can kind of see that there, double gold stripe. With a gold mantle, so it's got a mantle in there. He's got a head. And its tail has long and pale rings. Its appearance is actually quite similar to that, as I mentioned, of the Goodfellows tree kangaroo, but it differs by having more of a pinkish and lighter coloured face, golden shoulders, white ears, and are smaller. They were actually once considered a subspecies of the Goodfellows, but now they're pretty much considered their own species these days, which makes a lot of sense. We'll have a look at this one over here. Is this the baby? No, this is one of the adults. We'll have a look at you since you're posing very nicely for us. So sadly, they are actually one of the most endangered out of all the tree kangaroos. They've been extirpated from most of its original range and is thus actually listed as an critically endangered species. But the population in the Torlechi range is now effectively protected by the Tekel Conservation Alliance. And in terms of taxonomy, the Foja mountain population was described in 1993 by Ruby McCullers, and the Torlechi population in the Southern Province was discovered by McCullers in 2005, and was described by Tim Flannery, you remember him, in 2006. So they were, actually, as I mentioned, they were considered different species, subspecies of Goodfellows, but now they're considered their own species, and are sadly critically endangered. But let's have a look more about these guys, see what more information we can get. So yeah. That contains the three species: Finches, Golden-mantled, now found in the Eastern Range, and there's the smallest member of this. And as you see, you get about 7 kilograms, so a little bit smaller. Only 2 specimens have been made, about 1 kilograms. Found in 2 areas in New Guinea, the lower mountain rainforests, and Tonga measurements in that. They're the most dangerous. Yeah, we already saw those bits. But yeah, we'll carry on. So our last kangaroo for the day is the grizzled kangaroo, or the grizzled tree kangaroo. So let's have a look at these guys. You can say probably one of the more plain looking ones, but still cool one to cover. I think it deserves a good coverage here. It is one of the bigger ones too, I believe. Which one can we have a look at? Is that a baby? That's the adult. We'll have a look at the baby. Why not? Because he's a cutie. So this juvenile is the grizzled tree kangaroo. These guys are a furry, long-tailed marsupial native to the islands of New Guinea. They're actually the most common, one of the most common ones. Like most tree kangaroos, they live in trees and feed on leaves, fruit, and bark. And as a member of the macropods, as similar. The tree kangaroo is uncommon and is threatened by hunting and habitat loss, but these guys can be found in the foothills of the northern and western New Guinea, and is actually indigenous to some offshore islands. So the grizzled tree kangaroo itself does grow a little bit bigger than a few other species of tree kangaroo. Let's have a look at you there. They can get to about 75 to 90 centimeters long, or 30 to 35 inches, with males being a bit larger than the females. They actually resemble a terrestrial kangaroo and can weigh between 8 to 15 kilograms, or 18 to 33 pounds. Their heads are quite small, with a flat muzzle, and they have powerful arms for climbing. Their hind limbs are long, and their feet are large and are well adapted for climbing. The toes are armed with strong claws, and the fourth claw is usually longer than the others. The otherwise bushy cylindrical tail is often actually hairless at the base, and they use this as a prop when they're climbing. And its colouring, as you can see, is like a charcoal grey to chocolate brown with pale underparts. And the ears are black, and the toes are tall and dark, as you can see there, which is really, really good. We can see that there. Trying to see if we can find another one there. Let's have a look at you. Not really in the best light they are, but there's a better look at its face. In terms of its distribution, it is native to the tropical foothills of northern and western New Guinea, and is found on a few offshore islands as well. It can be found 1,400 meters up to about 1,400 meters or 4,000 feet above sea level, and it lives on the Foja Mountains and the Bird's Head Peninsula, and is found on offshore islands such as Yapen, Waigeo, Masul, and Salawati, and possibly in Batana, and they are found in both primary and secondary forests. So in terms of their biology, they sometimes descend to the ground, but they spend most of the time in the forest canopy and able to leap agilely from tree to tree. They sleep on a horizontal branch and feed on the leaves, fruits, and barks of trees. So they do feed on quite a variety of different tree species, and even like leaves and fruits of fig trees, so they have quite a variety in their diet. The reproduction has been little studied, but is taken once a year, as I mentioned before. They take place once a year, that's when they breed, and a single young remains in the female patch for about 9 months. Females with young have been observed in March, June, and December, with a single set of twins actually being observed. So in terms of this guy, this is actually the least endangered out of all the ones that we kind of mentioned there. The IUCN listed the grizzled tree kangaroo as vulnerable, and it's an uncommon animal, and its population is believed to be declining throughout its range, and numbers have not been well studied. It is hunted for food and for the pet trade by the indigenous people, and its habitat has been cut down and cleared for small-scale agriculture, and also to make palm oil plantations. The animal lives in the north. Animals living in the northern coastal mountain range are particularly threatened, but there is community initiative focusing on tree kangaroos, so they are luckily protected in a lot of the places they are. And I don't think this has a. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. That's actually sent it to the train set. That's all right. That's not a worry. We'll click on the Zoopedia anyway. So there isn't too much about difference between these guys. Zoo's going to see if you can find. Yeah, that's basically just copied from the other one. Anyway, so those are the three tree kangaroos. Those are all done by Great Cakes Mods. But the next one was also done by Great Cakes Mods. We have got an extinct species of mustelid, or it's called Eomelavora. So this guy will probably be a little bit familiar to you guys, but we'll talk a little bit about these guys as well. So Eomelavora is an extinct genus of prehistoric mustelid, and is believed to be closely related to the honey badger, and is known from Eurasia and North America, and tentatively from Africa. It is actually one of the biggest mustelids known, and bigger and more hypercarnivorous than even the modern wolverine, which is very interesting. So in terms of its taxonomy, it was thought to be only one species. It was Eomela womani, which is the species here, and it was described in 1996. And there was another species described as younger subspecies, but new remains actually suggest it's a different species, and have now been split into 5 different species. Some of them being found all over the place. There's Privatari, which was there's Hungaria, which is in Hungaria. Ugo Skulo, which is from the eastern Hungaria, from the Ethopasitethys region. And the placement of the African species of Eomela latifunensis is kind of thing. But these guys are from like the Miocene, late Miocene, and they're cursorial, which means they're quite good runners. You can see they've got much longer legs than modern wolverines and honey badgers. That allows them to run a little bit better. And they primarily consumed meat and bones. So let's have a look at here. Have a look at the Zoopedia. They're about twice as heavy as a modern honey badger. So quite big, and there actually were prehistoric species like Megalithlus, which were like jaguar-sized badgers, 60 to 100 kilograms, so leopard-sized, jaguar-sized, that were kind of took the niche of large predators in places where there was not cats. So there's the famous cat gap in America where there were no big cats. So they kind of took that niche there, which is quite cool. Cursorial, as we mentioned, lived during late Miocene between 13 to 5 million years ago. That's quite interesting. So quite wide-ranging species, of course. And you can see they're quite cute there. We'll also have a look at the babies, you know. Really, really cool. So a lot of prehistoric mustelids, which is very interesting, because a lot of them actually got a lot bigger. You know, most things prehistorically got bigger. Some species, as I mentioned, have the cat gap. So the species Megalinthus, which is the great weasel, lived during the late North America during the Miocene and was about 60 to 100 kilograms. There is a couple other species that I believe I actually covered before. There's Icaros, which was done by Great Case Mod not too long ago. There are a really interesting group of kind of large macro-predatory mustelids, which are quite cool genre, you know, quite cool group of animals, which is interesting as well. And you can see they've got some cute babies as well. Like, I love the different color variation on this guy. And look at this cute little baby. How cute is that little baby? Really, really cute. Anyway, we shall keep on keeping on. So next up, we've got a remaster. This one's done by Monsoon. We've got the Asian Golden Cat. So the Asian Golden Cat, these guys are a medium-sized wild cat that is found in India, Southeast Asia, and China, and have been listed as vulnerable since 2025. So they're also known as the Temrex cat or the Asian Golden Cat. So this species was described in 1827 by Nicholas Elwood Viggers, and do describe the reddish-brown color to it. And there are two different subspecies. There's Temrecae, which is the type subspecies that comes from Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula, and Moronensis comes from Nepal and Southeast Asia. So phylogenetic analysis into this guy actually suggests the Asian golden cats kind of came from an evolutionary lineage together with the grey cat and the marble cat that diverged from a common ancestor between 8 to 4 million years ago. So they are closely related to things like the bay cat and the marbled cat. And in terms of their size and everything, the Asian golden cat is medium-sized, with a head-to-body length of about 66 to 105 centimeters, or about 26 to 41 inches, with a 40 to 57 centimeter or 16 to 22 inch tail, and is 56 centimeters tall at the shoulder. In terms of weight, it's about 9 to 16 kilograms, which is about 2 to 3 times the weight of a domestic cat. So these guys, another really cool thing about them, even though they're called golden cats, they are actually quite polymorphic in their colors. So golden, reddish browns, and buff brown individuals have been found in India and Bhutan. Reddish brown morphs have been found in Sumatra, and melanistic individuals have actually been found in eastern Himalayas. And there's also been some with rosettes, little spots going down its back like the leopard or jaguar, that actually has been found in China, which is very interesting. But in terms of the habitat, they're a very wide-ranging animal. They come from eastern Nepal into India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, southern China, Malaysia, and Sumatra. They tend to prefer forest habitats interspread with rocky areas and inhabit dry deciduous or subtropical evergreen and tropical rainforests. And since an individual was actually caught alive in 1831 in Nepal, that was thought to be the westernmost point of their range. They actually found to range a little bit further than that, and they can be found actually quite high up the Himalayas, which is quite interesting. So in terms of their behavior and ecology, Asian golden cats, like most cats, are territorial and solitary. Previous observations suggest they were mostly nocturnal, but field studies actually show that they're more crepuscular to diurnal in their activities. Typically, a male's territory, males tend to have bigger territories than females, is about 47 kilometers squared, or about 18 square miles, and that increased about 15% during the dry season. Though a female's territory was about 36 kilometers, or 12 square miles, but stayed pretty much the same size. Both cats typically traveled between 55 meters and more than 9 kilometers a day, and were mostly active between July and July, then March. They also seem to, cats in northwestern India were actually active during the day and active peaks around noon. So these guys tend to hunt and climb trees when necessary. They hunt things like birds, hares, rodents, reptiles, and small ungulates such as young sambar deer and mujaks. They're capable of actually bringing down prey much larger than themselves, which includes actually domestic water buffalo calves. And they've actually been known to prey on goral in these mountains of the Sikkim. They tend to kill prey with nape bites, which is pretty typical of cats. And they also will pluck birds larger than pigeons before they feed. Their vocalizations include hissing, spitting, meowing, purring, growling, and growling, pretty much the same as domestic cats. The one method they use as well, just like modern cats, they use, domestic, like domestic cats, they use urine spraying and scent marking, raking trees and logs with their claws, and rubbing their heads across objects to communicate with smell. So that's quite typical of those cats. That's the male. We'll have a look at the female for a bit, because why not? In terms of reproduction, not much is actually known about the reproduction, but most of which has been learned from cats in captivity. So female Asian golden cats are sexually mature at between 18 to 24 months, while males are mature at about 24 months. Females will come into estrus about every 39 days. At the time they will leave marks and seek contact with the male. And then after they've mated and they have a gestation period of about 78 to 80 days, you get this cute little baby kitten, and they tend to give birth to in a sheltered den or sheltered place, and they have a litter between 1 to 3. The kittens will weigh between 220 to 250 grams or 7.8 to 8.9 ounces at birth, but triple in size for their first 8 weeks of life. They are born actually possessing their adult coat already, and they open their eyes after 6 to 12 days. In captivity, they can live up to about 20 years. So there are some threats to these guys. The Asian golden cat inhabits some of the fastest developing countries in the world, which is threatened by habitat destruction, by deforestation, and declining ungulate prey. They're also been reported to being killed in revenge of eating poultry, and also they are part of the illegal pet trade. So there's actually been, they were mostly poached for their fur as well. There's been lots of skins that have been caught around them, and they are considered protected by CITES, and though that is considered adequate, there has been they've been observed in different markets around the place. But yeah, luckily they are considered kind of fully protected in most of their range, and in captivity there are about 20 Asian golden cats at 8 European zoos that are participating in the European Endangered Species Program, and they have managed to breed before, and these was kept at Singapore Zoo as well, so they are kept in some quite big zoos. And in China, these guys are actually thought to have been a kind of leopard, as they're called the rock cat or the yellow leopard. And there's different colours, phases actually have different names. So the black fur ones are called inky leopards, and the spotted coats are actually called sesame leopards, which is quite cute. Though in some regions in Thailand as well, they're actually called the Senua Phar, which means fire tiger. And according to regional legend, the burning of an Asian golden cat's fur drives tigers away, and eating their flesh is believed to have the same effect. The Karen people actually believe that the single hair of the cat is sufficient, and many indigenous people believe the cat is fierce, but in captivity they seem to be docile. And in the south they're called the kangaroos, and they are believed to be quite fierce and even prey and eat on livestock and even larger things like elephants, which is very interesting as well. But yeah, that's another really cool species we get to talk about. But now we've got a couple populations or different subtypes of the southern lion, which is the southern population of lion. We'll get a little bit into that, but these are all done by Great Case Mods. So we're going to be starting off with the Katunga lion, so you can see him here. So this is the Katunga lion. So the Katunga lion, which is formerly known as Panthera leo bausenbergi, but is now part of the southern lion subspecies Panthera leo malachata. These guys are a population of lions found in southwestern Africa. They are also known as the Southwest African lion. They are found in Namibia, Angola, Zaire, Western Zambia, Western Zimbabwe, and northern Botswana. The type specimen was found in Katanga, and in 2008 there were surveys actually looking into a few national parks into the Congo, but they did not find any evidence of these lions. These lions are actually considered smaller than other lion populations and tend to have a light-coloured or dark-coloured thick manes, often with a lighter fur or a ring of lighter fur in front of their mane. You can kind of see that there. So a lot of the taxonomy going on with these guys, as I mentioned, there was a lot of different subspecies of lion originally considered. But in 2017, the cat classification task force of the cat specialist group revised taxonomy, so they lumped a lot of subspecies, and now they've been split into the northern and southern subspecies. It's Panthera leo and Panthera leo malanchata, which includes most of the populations from sub-Saharan Africa, and the northern population includes the extinct ones like the Barbary lion from the north coast, and also the Asiatic lion. So they are often considered the southern lion, but this is one of those populations. So let's have a look and see what we can find on their Zoopedia. Probably not too much. Yeah, not too much there. Not too different. Kind of talk about their scattered populations. But yeah, that is the Katungalaya and Panthera leo bergenbergi. So next up, we're going to talk about another one. Oh no, we'll talk about the gills first. That's another transversal lion. There's this really cool excuse to get a remaster and a lot of variation, because lions, have a lot of variation in their manes. So you can see that's what the female looks like. And of course, Great Cakes mod always does such a great job. No, that's a transversal lion. This is the Kachunga lion. Which one is... That's a Maasai. There she is. That must be her then. The Kachunga lion. So you can see some of the variety there, changed colours. Obviously, there's not as much change in males and the females and the males, but I really love the variety of manes that Great Cakes has given the different subspecies, or different populations, we'll say. But we'll get into that as we carry on. So next up, we're going to have a look at the Maasai lion. So that's another population. So you can see the male here. Oh no, that's a transversal lion. Yeah, we know everything mixed up today, but here we are. Here is the Maasai lion. So the Maasai lion, which is formerly Panthera leo nubica. So these are known as the East African lion. So these are a population of lion that live in East Africa. They live in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. And actually in the Maasai culture, it was believed that hunting a lion was kind of like a rite of passage, becoming, becoming a warrior. Though it is a tradition that is actually no longer practiced, they do sometimes kill these lions to protect their livestock. So the Maasai lion is actually mane can vary quite a bit in its length, color, and thickness, depending on the health of the lion. Maasai lions living in cooler climates spout typically thicker, longer manes. Those in warmer, wetter climates. So the colder you are, it's a kind of a trend I'll get into a little bit with these lions, as I talk about a little bit more as I go on. The ones that live in warmer, wetter climates tend to have shorter manes. The ones that live cooler climates tend to have longer manes. Maasai lions living in the Tsavo region in Kenya actually have the thinnest manes, and sometimes males don't even have manes, so they become, referred to as maneless lions. So that's quite interesting. We'll have to talk a little more information about the Maasai lion. They live in the Maasai lion, Panthera melanchata. That's the subspecies name. The real one is nubica, which is interesting. So you can see that's about where they're found. Made famous by the Big Cat Diary, the Marsh Pride showcases complex social dynamics that can survive threats for humans and rival lions. Darker, fuller manes often a sign of strength and high testosterone levels, making males more attractive lioness. That is somewhat true, but there's a lot of variation in that. While not as agile as leopards, some lions in the Mara, especially in the Mara Triangle, actually exhibit tree climbing behavior, so that's quite interesting. Young males, after leaving their natal pride, live nomadic lives for several years. We do know about that. So we'll keep going on with that. But that is the Maasai lion. We'll have a look at the female. Where's the Maasai female? There she is. Having a sleep. So not too different, just some colour changes. And let's see if we can spot a baby. Because there's one Maasai baby. There we are. Look at him. How cute is he? Adorable. Anyway, we're going to start off with the last species we've got here, the subpopulation. We have got the transversal lion. So he is sleeping over here, I think. Sorry about that sneeze. Here we got the transversal lion going on here, having a sleep. So the Transvaal lion, which is also known as Panthera leo krugeri, is a large South African feline. So these guys are also known as the South African lion, the Southeast African lion, or the Cape lion. So these guys are a population of lion that are found in South Africa, particularly in the Kruger National Park and the Kalahari region. The Transvaal name comes from the former Transvaal region in South Africa. A 2006 genetic study actually showed that the Cape lion is actually just the southernmost population of this population, and mature transversal lions tend to have dark or black manes, with their manes darkening over the time as they age. So one really interesting thing about lions, and part of the reason why a lot of these subspecies didn't make sense, there's a lot of differences in their manes and things, and how thick their manes are and how dark their manes are, depending on where you are depending in latitude. So the Barbary lion lived in some of the most northern parts of the lion's range, and the Cape lion lived in the most southern parts, in the most extremes or the extreme coldest of the ranges of lions. And funnily enough, both of them got quite big and had quite big, large, fluffy manes. So you could argue, that is convergence. So you can argue that is convergence, but they're not closely related to each other, as it meant they're opposite sides of a continent. So it's a great example of a cline. So you can see, basically, as you get farther away from latitudes, they get bigger and hairier manes and things like that. But one actually really cool thing about the population, we'll actually look at the female now. Let's see if she's over there. That's Katunga. That's Masai. There she is. So we'll actually talk about the leucistic forms. So there is a recessive gene that is found in the Trifasal lion population. It is a recessive color morph that causes them to be leucistic or white. Leucistic lions are mostly found in captivity because that's the ones they're caught and bred in captivity. People want to see them. But they are occasionally found in the wild as well, as that's where the gene comes from. Let's have a look at this little baby going to catch mum's tail. Mm-hmm. How cute. Adorable. That was adorable. But yeah, as I mentioned, a lot of these were lumped into the... We'll get out of there. Lumped into the southern lion. We'll have a look at this interaction as well, why not? Because a lot of old taxonomists used to just lump based on how things looked, and just because things look similar or look different doesn't mean they're actually that different in terms of their genetics. As I mentioned before, the Cape and Barbary lion, they obviously look similar, but that's because of the environment, not because of their genetics. So the genetics, they obviously had to lump them quite a bit because most of the populations are actually not that different from each other genetically. They just look different because the environment asks for different things, like, cooler areas want bigger manes to keep warm or be darker to conserve body heat and things like that. So there's just variety, just like people. We're all one species, but there's so much different variation within us humans. It's just, differences between individuals and local populations and things. So a lot of them had to be lumped into those two different subspecies. But anyway, a really, really cool one there. Nice job by Great Cakes. And a great example, to get more lions and things to look at and all that cool stuff. But I'm actually not going to cover too much of this animal. I'm going to give it a quick overview because there's a pack coming for not Jurassic World Evolution, but for Planet Zoo soon that will feature this species. This is the Coyote. So I'm going to give it a quick overview, and then we're going to talk about this mod. This mod was done by Gennaro Pizza and Gaboy, who Gaboy did the modeling, and Gaboy does such an awesome job. So I'm just going to talk about this in a kind of a shortened sense, and we'll save all the big information stuff for the actual species when we get the pack. So the coyote, or Canis latrans, these guys, or latins, is actually known as the American jackal, or the prairie wolf, or bush wolf. So these guys are a species of canid native to North America. It is smaller than its close cousin, the grey wolf, and slightly smaller than the eastern and red wolf, but it fills very much the same ecological niche as a golden jackal does in Eurasia. However, these guys are a little bit larger. So these guys are considered the least concerned by the IUCN, and their range has actually gotten wider a lot in North America as humans have kind of extirpated wolves and things. They've been able to spread out. So they've actually managed to live in human cities and do quite well around humans. And they've also managed to expand north and south, so they're getting down to the Pantanal and even getting up into Alaska. So while they have 19 recognized subspecies, they're mostly just pelt differences and different size things and things like that. The average male coyote is about 8 to 20 kilograms, or 18 to 44 pounds, while females are about 7 to 18 kilograms, or about 15 to 40 pounds. You can see their fur is predominantly a light grey or red or fulvurous, interspread with black and white, though it can vary a lot with geography. And depending on where they live, they do have quite a varied social structure. So it can either live in a family unit, or loosely knit groups, packs of unrelated individuals, just depends on where you are. They are primarily carnivorous, though, and their diet consists of mainly deer, rabbits, hare, rodents, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and invertebrates, though they will eat fruits and vegetables on occasion. And they have a characteristic howl that is made by solitary individuals, and that often can get them killed. And despite predation by grey wolves, they actually sometimes will mate with wolves, and will produce coy wolf hybrids with eastern or red wolves as well. And in northeastern regions of North America, the eastern coyote, which is considered a larger subspecies, is actually a result of various historical and recent matings of the various wolf populations. And genetic studies show that most North American wolves do contain, at some level, coyote DNA, which is quite interesting. Yeah, these guys, coyote, are quite prominent in Native American folklore. They're usually considered a trickster, and they actually use deception and humor to kind of rebel against social conventions. And they're actually quite prominent as well as Mesoamerican cosmology as a symbol of military might. And after the kind of colonization of the Americas, they were seen as kind of cowardly or untrustworthy. And unlike wolves, which has really seen their public image improve, coyotes are kind of typically seen as, vermin or seen negatively by a lot of people. It's a little bit sad because they are quite cool and quite interesting animals. And they do have the cutest little puppies, if you don't think. They look so cute. And then we can see this black individual here. So Gaboy always excels in giving like a lot of variety and things like that to their skins. And Gaboy always does an awesome job. And the reason I don't want to go too much into detail about it is because, as I mentioned, this is going to get replaced by the official mod, which is coming, the official version by Frontier, which is going to be coming in the next DLC pack, which is we're finally getting a DLC pack, which is amazing. So I'm going to refrain from covering too much. And I really hope that we get to have more of, keep this mod in some shape or form. I personally think it actually would be really cool if we managed to, this could become like the Pleistocene subspecies and give some little changes. But I'm sure Gaboy, because it's such an awesome mod, I'm sure he'll try to find a way to kind of preserve it, as a way to, keep the model, because he did a great effort with it. And then, obviously it gets kind of mixed away by the official mod. But I think it's quite cool that we get to have, this mod right before the original comes out. But there is some subspecies, and there is a Pleistocene kind of subspecies, which was a little bit bigger, as most were. But yeah, I think it's kind of the Pleistocene subspecies. I don't know exactly where it is, but yeah, I think that'd be a great way to save it. Just have the Pleistocene coyote or something like that, just so we can keep this model, because it is a really awesome model. But yeah, really did an awesome job there. So I think this will be a great place to end the video. I will thank everyone, of course. I'll thank Gaboy, Gaboy and General Pizza. You did a great job with the Coyote. Great Cakes, you've done a great job with the all the awesome, most of the mods today, most of the lions and the Tree-Kangaroos, but also Eomelavorai, and also Monsoon for remastering their Asian Golden Cats, another really awesome one. But yeah, I think this would be a great place to end the video, so I really, really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to get the little bell icon to get notified below anything. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye.